Pastime at home this year. Everybody, on one, on two, on three.
If you don't win, it's okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Real Point of View. Tonight's subject, if it's not apparent, is about baseball. So it's America's pastime, baseball and film. And tonight I have my esteemed colleagues, Mr. Larry Domkowski, the must-see movie critic, and Mr. Stephen C., the man who never picks a bad movie. And as you can tell, he's kind of nodding there. And I'm your host, Greg Morgan, and I'm the Real Movie Guy. So the three of us are getting together tonight to talk about baseball. And there's been a lot of films out there that have baseball in the title, baseball in as a subject matter, as the main theme of the movie. And it's ironic. It doesn't really matter. It could be a drama. It could be a melodrama. It could be a comedy. It could be a crime thriller. Crime thriller that comes to mind is a movie with
The Fan.
That's the movie I was getting ready to say. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
The Fan with Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro. So yeah, so even a thriller and where people go too far. So tonight we're going to talk about baseball. There's so many baseball movies out there. We're not going to be able to get anywhere near the amount that we're able to talk about. But so we just picked a few that we'd like to maybe focus on, and in our conversation we'll probably talk about a few others. We just want to say baseball has been a big deal in the film industry, and some of the best movies out there. So Larry, Steve, baseball. Give me something about baseball that you like before we jump into the films. What is it about baseball that's so important? Why is it such a big deal in the United States?
Well, first of all, baseball is unique. I mean, it's truly unique. It's an infinite sum game. There's no finish line. There's no clock. It's over when it's over. And the whole idea of the game is to keep on playing the game. So if you're down and it's the top of the ninth and you need to get a run to tie, that means you still get to play.
Right.
And this is something that is atypical to the American way of doing things. Other games that might be similar are, for instance, cricket, but we really don't play cricket in this country that much. Baseball is a wonderful thing, and to quote George Carlin, in baseball you go home.
Right.
And baseball does translate pretty good to television, but in a way though it doesn't, because when you go see a live game and you get to see all the stuff that's happening and that where the ball isn't, you get to see how the players position themselves, you get to see how they support each other, and these things camera never captures.
Mm-hmm.
For when you're watching it on television. It's a great game. It's a fantastic, and as And as a famous coach used to say, it's a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball. It's a wonderful thing.
What about you, Steve? What are your thoughts on the matter?
One major thought that comes to mind is if you look at the landscape of Major League Baseball, college baseball, high school baseball, the fact that the Little League World Series, that these young kids are getting to play in front of these audiences and be celebrated for their skill at the game, you see a diversity in baseball like you don't see in very many sports anymore. Like you literally have Jose Altuve, who is 5'7", playing second base for the Houston Astros. And then you have Aaron Judge for the New York Yankees, who is 6'7", a literal foot taller, and weighs 265 playing right field. And it's from top to bottom, all different nationalities. Baseball brings literally a huge amount of countries together in order to enjoy a sport that people love. Baseball has affected people's lives in such a major way. It's affected this country in such a major way, and baseball has been an evolution. It is still, you throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball, but the evolution of the way the game is played, the way a true strategy comes into play at certain points, and one hit can change a game.
Hmm.
One single hit, in basketball, one shot can end a game. In football, one touchdown can send it to overtime, and at the end of the game, or can win you the game. In baseball, one hit in the first inning can win you the game, or one hit in the ninth inning can win you the game.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
And it is, even though it feels more like an individual sport because it's people playing their particular position, there's one person hitting, there's one person pitching. It is a very, very team oriented sport, and it is very dependent on the guy, as much playing first and catcher as the pitcher, as the outfielder, as the man on deck, or the positioning of players in the batting lineup. And so there's a lot to think about in this game.
You know, I was looking at it, me myself, in I guess what I would consider more of a purist ideology, purist form as a kid growing up. You know, we hear the term dare to dream. And I think one of the cool things about professional sports, as far as a kid is concerned, you can aspire toward and trying to be like or emulate. I think it was really interesting. You know, a lot of times when we were little kids, we get our first baseball glove or our baseball glove, and it always has either one of two things. It has the manufacturer of the glove, which for me was Rawlings for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also has possibly a signature of a professional athlete who played whatever position. Because, you know, the other unique thing about the sport is there's a catcher's glove, which is very different than the first baseman's glove, which is very different from the outfielder's glove.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would attribute a particular player to whether you had a left-handed glove or a right-handed glove, whether it was again, the catcher's glove or the first baseman's mitt or the outfielder's mitt. And you're aspiring, you're emulating your favorite baseball athlete. So when you go up to the plate, it's not just, in my case, Greg Morian, left-handed hitter going up to the plate. It was Mickey Mantle going up to the plate. The famous 61, that was me. I was Mickey Mantle. Until I struck out, because I don't think he probably struck out as many times as I did. But I'm just saying, you know, when I went up to that plate, I had that same ferocity that Mickey Mantle did. And if I even got a single, which was rare, I feel very accomplished. Like, you know, hey, yeah, I'm Mickey Mantle today, you know. So I think there's all those different aspects of us looking at this particular sport in baseball, and how it's viewed and how we view that sport. So let's talk about.
Can I ask real quick?
Sure.
So I would assume that Mickey Mantle was your favorite baseball player.
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
he was a famous left-handed player.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that's the direction that could go or not, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, even that, favorite players are probably, well, I have a picture of one of my favorite players. Let me share that with our viewers here. This was one of my favorite players growing up. Recognize this guy?
Oh, is that Hank?
No,
Oh,
this is not Hank Aaron.
No, that would not be Hank Aaron.
nope.
Although Hank Aaron probably looked up to him a little bit. Just
Probably.
now, here's the irony. It was a touch before Hank Aaron and during Hank Aaron that this particular player was famous.
The only other name I can think of is Satchel Paige, but I'm not sure.
It's not
Well,
Satchel Paige.
Not Satchel Paige,
No.
not known for his hitting. Satchel Paige was more known for his pitching, although he was a good hitter.
Right. So who is it?
Willie Mays.
For the people in the audience that don't know, Willie Mays.
Willie Mays.
Say
I
hey,
can see
kid.
that.
Say hey, kid. That's
Willie
right.
Mays.
So, baseball affects you in different ways.
Mhm.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why this is such a cool subject to talk about as far as sports movies are concerned. So we've got the different films that we were able to watch. So I found a few films that I really liked. I was watching a film last night, kind of in preparation for this particular show, and I found that probably the fifth time I've ever seen this film, how it affected me differently, not just because of the true revisiting of a film, but also the emotional aspects of where I am in my mind, in my life, in my mind's eye, as I'm watching this particular film. And I found myself being overly emotional, retrospective to other times that I've watched the film. Needless to say, I enjoyed what I watched, but at the same time, it affected me differently. And I think that's kind of cool. And another reason why it's important to bring up films in the past as well as current and even future films, because you don't really know how it's going to affect you currently or over time. And so I'll get to that movie in a second. Do you guys kind of agree with that? After you've seen a film, if you watched it again, is it how you are, where you are at the time, and how it affects your mood while you're watching it?
Say that again.
Yeah.
Basically, in a nutshell, in a nutshell, when you watch a film for the first time, you have whatever your emotion is and what you're going through at the time when you see it. If you watch that same film again, you notice some nuances that you didn't notice in the previous time you watched it. But also, too, I'm wondering, as you're watching it, is it the space that you're in mentally, emotionally at the time, is that part of that nuance? And do you recognize that? Do you agree that it changes each time that you watch the film?
I have to say yes and no. It really depends on the film you're watching and what the film really, if it speaks to you in that kind of way. Like for one of the movies that I picked, For the Love of the Game, really does have an emotional, the emotional movie and the emotional situation of the movie and what's going on does play to any emotions that you may be having if you're in a down situation. You can see uh, you can really relate to what Billy's going through on the mound, because he's not just pitching in the game, he's remembering, and he's honestly coming to terms with mistakes and stuff like that. So you're kind of feeling his emotion of the roller coaster he's going through, but as the movie goes, you feel like it's picking you up while it's picking him up in the points of the movie.
Okay.
But a movie like Major League, you're definitely not going to feel that.
Well, I don't know. It's too bad we don't have
Even though,
Karen here to talk to us with us about it, since she actually was in the film.
right.
But
You're not going to get the points of emotional emphasis in a movie like Major League or something like that as you're going to get in like a Field of Dreams, a Moneyball, of For the Love of the Game.
right, because that film was really more to, in its essence, just to be a fun movie and to be funny and to be sometimes somewhat cliche in its allure to just be
Right.
silly. And so I get that. So yeah, I guess how the movie is set up also changes and provides that difference. What about you, Larry? Any
what?
thought about the question?
Wait. Say it again. I'm kind of half hearing the conversation.
No worry. Basically, as you're watching the film for the first time, you get a sense of what you're looking at, and however it affects you at the time. In revisiting the film, is it part of how your emotion is at the time of watching it that in one case presents a nuance and in another case makes you look at that film differently?
Well, that is a very good question, and I apologize for not hearing the whole thing before. I was getting a little static in my headset. I think
That's
that
okay.
I think that seeing a film or a play or experiencing anything for the first time is unique. You'll never have that again, ever. Your first time is your first time. Whether it's your first beer, your first girlfriend, your first car, that's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can never do that again. And sometimes really outstanding films, the what makes them great is lost or can be lost in that first time experience. And so you got to see it again to make sure of what is happening, what you're doing, and what did you really see, and how did it hit you? And then the second time you may see it, you're going, oh wow, that's what makes this a really good film. And you get beyond that first thing, but you never lose it, but you get beyond it if it's a great film. If it's a bad film, boy, how many people come out of a movie theater after they see a movie and they love it, and the next time they see it, they go, how did I ever like that movie in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Because that initial impact isn't there. Some filmmakers are really, really, really good at keeping your attention on the screen. And you walk away either exhausted or thrilled or something because you've been focused on that screen like crazy. It can be a terrible movie, but you're just totally focused on that screen. Some filmmakers slowly open things for you, and then every once in a while give you another little hook. And they want you to lean into it. They want you to choose to come into the film. Mm-hmm. And I prefer that type of film myself, but that's okay. There's different types of films for every single person who's made a film. It can be that unique for the people making it. A baseball film that does it, that slowly opens for you, and is often thought of as a slow movie, is The Natural, Robert Redford. And mm-hmm. It just slowly opens things, and it reveals a little more, and reveals a little more. But the interesting thing is, the movie takes place in a baseball setting, but it's not about baseball at all. Mm-hmm. It's about good versus evil, right. And it's about being true to yourself and being true to the gift that the universe gives you. It's about the journey of a hero, realizing that he can either be selfish or heroic, but he can't be both. And when he finally puts that aside of being, his wish of being the greatest there ever was, that's when he's able to go beyond that. So baseball is a metaphor in that movie. It's a metaphor for the eternal battle between good and evil.
So baseball's not always about baseball. Sometimes it's about conflict. Sometimes it's about a good feeling. Sometimes it's about a friend. Sometimes it's about an enemy. It's all encompassed in other things. And I guess that's any subject matter. We get the guise of baseball and as we're talking about baseball as a sport, as opposed to what's truly happening in the background, what's truly happening right in front of us. Baseball is just a part of that and an extension of that thing or situation that's happening. Yeah, that's interesting too. So I guess it doesn't really matter how it's presented. It's just a matter of whether or not, as Steve said earlier, whether that movie catches you, whether that movie you can embrace that film. And so I found a movie that I watched again last night that really I liked it when I first saw it. I liked it each time I've seen it, and my experience has been different. But what was interesting to me yesterday when I was watching the film, and I'm not afraid to say this, I'm very secure in my masculinity here. I cried a lot watching this film last night. And I think part of it was the emotions that I was in my life at that moment in watching it, along with some of the things that maybe I just didn't get the last time I watched it or the times before that I watched it. And trying to I don't know, really get into the core of the film. So,
what movie was it?
It was Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
And Ray Liotta and James Earl Jones. It was. I was watching it. I was trying to watch it as if I was watching it for the first time, but that went away quickly. I start remembering things, and I thought that was going to spoil it for me. But then I settled down, and I just watched the film for the essence of the film. And what was really cool about this film is how they inject a little bit of history about baseball as a sport, a little bit of history about baseball over time as far as actual characters. And then they infuse fictitious characters that help the story become even that much more enjoyable to watch and to listen to. So the basic essence of Field of Dreams is a guy starts hearing voices. His wife persuades him to move to Iowa and to buy a farm. And so he's like, what the heck, why not? He loves his wife. They love each other. They're going to go for it. So they buy a farm. They have a child. And, they're living this farmer's life. And they have their corn crop. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the main character, Ray, hears a voice. And the voice is telling him something. He's like, what is it? Build it. If you build it, he will come. Now, obviously, a very out of the way phrase. You figure when a phrase is going to talk to you out of nowhere, it's going to be something profound. Well, right then when you hear it, the profound essence just isn't there. But we realize as we go through the course of Ray's journey in the film that it was the most profound thing that was said throughout the whole movie. This is a pretty enjoyable movie to watch, and watch Ray on his journey and trying to understand what the voice is telling him. It tells him different things. It shows him different things throughout the film that help him grow toward that thing that he's trying to, that he doesn't know he's trying to link to. He doesn't know he's trying to come to grips with and get closure from. And this movie is full of that for many of the characters in the film,
Right,
and realizations that come from many of the characters in the film.
You know, one of the things about that film, and without giving away too much of it, because again, baseball is a part of the movie, but that's not what the movie's about. And it's about saying those things that you never said when you had the chance.
Yep, that's part of it.
And you know, so many times as we grow older, I'll give you an example. You know, it was in the last couple of years of my father's life, and he's holding our year-old son, and my son is being antsy and whiny, and my dad said, let me hold him for a few minutes, and next thing you know, you know, my son is quiet and he's happy. And I looked at my dad and thinking, after all these years, there's still things he can teach me.
Yeah.
And that is a part of the essence of this movie, of Field of Dreams, and his journey, and Ray's journey, and how he gets to that point is a really amazing story.
It is. I found myself back from many of the thoughts that I had prior to seeing it again, and coming to my own realizations, and having thoughts about my dad as I was watching the film, and coming to my own short journey through Ray's eyes. It was very poignant for me to watch the film at this time. And, you know, it's interesting about one's mortality as we watch the film, but also the importance of family, the importance of remembering, the importance of experiencing, and coming to fruition or closure, being a more apt word, in your own thoughts, in your own mind, and in your own situation. That's what really makes this movie resound for me as a really top-notch film. And of course, baseball. Baseball made it fun. Baseball made it, it centered it for me in the sense that it was natural, just like the pastime, a natural pastime. And it was something that made me feel grounded in watching it.
And I think that, you know, you said something interesting, grounded. And interestingly enough, in the drama baseball movies, that's a key element in most of them. And a great example is in one of my favorite baseball movies of all time, and that's The Pride of the Yankees.
Yeah.
You know, here it is the story of one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a teammate of Babe Ruth, and what a fantastic player he was, Lou Gehrig.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets sick and he can't play anymore. But Gary Cooper plays him so well.
Oh,
he plays him so grounded,
mm-hmm.
down to earth the whole time. And it was almost as if that gift of being grounded came from baseball itself. And that's how the film was made. And then when he no longer had baseball, he seemed to have he's lost that sense of being grounded. And it's not till the very end when he redoes that great speech, today I'm the happiest man on the face of the earth. That is such a key moment because he's grounded again. And you mentioned that, Greg, and I think that is part and parcel of how a big part of our culture sees baseball.
Yeah, I think you're right, Larry.
I can readily agree with both of those movies talking about being grounded. Lou Gehrig was that kind of person. He wasn't an overly excited person. He wasn't. Sometimes when he walked off the field, you had no idea if they won the game or they lost the game. He was very stoic in that sense. But that's what he did for people around him too. Is he gave them a stability, like baseball gave him a stability, and like Field of Dreams, not in the same sense, but I feel there's the powerful moments in the movies that make people connect with baseball if they've ever truly been a fan, and people that haven't been real paying attention fans of baseball become connected in some way. Is Lou Gehrig's speech. When Kevin Costner, when John asks Kevin Costner or Ray if he wants to play catch, that's a huge moment in the movie, and it's just like in Pride of the Yankees. The speech is a huge moment in the movies that when you're getting toward the end of everything, there's still that little bit of emotion in which they pull you back into this movie and they get you. Oh, it's the end of the movie. The end of the movie's coming up. All right, we're going to make you reinvest in this movie all over again. In just this one scene for this little moment.
But what's great, again, is the filmmakers in both cases knew exactly where they wanted to bring the audience, and they brought us there, so that by the time it got to those key moments in either movie, you're ready for it.
Yeah,
you're ready for it because you've gone through that journey with the characters, and you're ready for it. There's so many really great baseball movies. I think there's more baseball movies than any other sport, I believe, if I remember the stuff I read. It's huge, the number of baseball movies there are. There's no way that we could even list them in the amount of time that we have, let alone talk about them. You've got, and a lot of them are comedies. You've got some dramas out there as well, and some really great documentaries. There's this one film that came out a couple years ago, got a lot of kudos, and that's Moneyball. And it's based on a true story, and the book it's based on. The book is not fiction. The book is actually, here are the players, here are the coaches involved, here are the teams involved, and they did a good job in taking the essence, and I use that word carefully, the essence of that book, and then put it up in a dramatic way so that we could see the film. And it's interesting because I'm not necessarily a fan of Kevin Costner. I never have been, but he's made a few baseball movies, and I like them all.
Yeah, I'm probably middle of the road when it comes to Kevin Costner because I've seen some really bad films, but I think when he finds the right one, we're the better for it in many cases. Like Field of Dreams, like not all of, but parts of Bull Durham. And I think the movie that you've mentioned, Steve, isn't that Kevin Costner as well?
Yep, For the Love of the Game.
And then, of course,
and Moneyball.
And it comes down to, for him anyway, picking the right film. And just to go off of baseball for a second, in a movie that I trump and I almost dare people to watch it now, is Open Range. You know, if you find the right film, you can see why there's star power. Now, obviously, you get a bad film that doesn't help you at all, like John Leguizamo in The Pest. That's not going to help him ever for me. But I'm sorry, I can't let it go. I got to let it go. I got to let that go.
I don't care what anybody says. I still love that movie.
I know, but it was so ridiculous. It just got on my nerves. It was the epitome of the title. It pestered me the whole time. But with that being said, I think John Leguizamo is an excellent actor. So, excuse me. So maybe in some of these baseball films, we find that maybe the actor is doing such a good job that we're on that journey because we believe, if not so much believe in the characters, we believe in what the characters stand for, and they help us do that because they're so convincing at, getting that point across to us who these people are. And another movie like that is like Redford in The Natural. I loved Redford. I'm not a big fan of Redford like that, but I loved him in that movie.
Well, and for me, what helps make that movie is in so many of Redford's films, he plays a bad guy. And here, he plays this guy who's, his father said, you've got a gift, but that's not enough, and he kind of goes on this journey by saying, I'm going to be the best that ever was. Ha, 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 fool on you. And look what happens to him. And suddenly, now he's a middle-aged guy. And he has one last chance. But he's still struggling with this concept that he could be the best that ever was. And it isn't until, other things happen when he realizes there are things far more important than being the greatest baseball player there ever was. And then
he becomes grounded.
And the two characters that ground him are the Glenn Close character and the guy who plays Pops.
Sorry, Larry, I have to stop. And this is for Karen. Karen's off in a wonderful place today, away from us on the show. But you said the magic words, Glenn Close. Ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Close is a big deal on our show when it comes to our other co-host who's not with us today, the movie maven Karen D. We had a show where she must have said Glenn Close like 20 times. So I just did it like 4 times now. But go ahead, Larry. Just had to get that Karen Glenn Close moment.
You mean the Glenn Close moment?
Just had to do it.
Yeah, Glenn Close.
Yeah, Glenn Close.
Yeah, Steve, do you understand what we're talking about here?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I do.
You gotta say it.
Oh, no. Go for it. You're good.
You gotta say Glenn Close.
You're not going to do it?
Oh,
no, I'm not going to do it. No. I hope Karen goes back and watches this and see that I won't do it.
Anyway, we got Will Brimley.
I will not give her the pleasure.
She's gonna eat you alive for that. Anyway.
And as Karen would say,
probably.
And as Karen would say,
shots fired.
Okay.
So Wilford Brimley, who plays Pops, the coach, the team manager, when he turns around and he says, you know, when he turns around, he's shaving near the end of the film when Redford makes the, when he reappears, and Burnley says to him, well, you're the best. You're the best player I've ever had, and you're the best damn hitter I've ever saw. And that is as close to being, hey, that's Roy Hobbs, the best that ever was, because Pops is the soul of baseball. That's what he represents. He represents the soul of baseball and the past, the present, and the future of baseball. When he says that, it's like all the different things in Roy Hobbs, in the Redford character, in his world, comes focused at that point. It's grounded, it's focused, and he knows what he has to do.
He has to come through.
Wow. Yep.
Not just for the team, but for himself.
Yeah. Now I gotta break off the seriousness for a minute, because there are some baseball movies that are as funny as all heck and have funny moments. You mentioned one a moment ago, Bull Durham, got a lot of funny moments in there. And some weird ones too.
Yeah, some weird ones.
Susan Sarandon really provides us a metaphysical journey into the America's Greatest Game. But there are other films as well, and one of them I'm going to stay after this, and I think both of you know the answer to this. But there are two people in the Baseball Hall of Fame who had nothing to do with baseball in their whole life. But there's only two people in the Baseball Hall of Fame who never played the game, never, they weren't a part of any team, they weren't a part of any league. Do you know who those two people are? They're both inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. They were both inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
No? I'm just going to take a stab at it. Harry Caray?
No, but you see, he was an announcer. He had
that's like
baseball. So,
you mean totally nothing having to do directly with baseball.
Yeah. And yet it has everything to do with tonight's conversation.
Hey, you got me, Larry.
Okay.
I'm guessing Costner and.
No. You ready? I'm going to give 3 words, and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. Ready for the 3 words?
I'm ready.
Who's on first?
Oh my God, they're in the Hall of Fame. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello are in the Baseball Hall of Fame for their famous "Who's on First" skit.
Oh, I mean, it is one of the greatest sports jokes of all time. Honestly, it's one of the greatest. It's probably one of the greatest jokes
comedy skits. Yeah, comedy bits, right?
Skit, yeah. Comedy skit.
It didn't even start out that way. They borrowed it. They stole it. I think it originated. It's the earliest version of that type of thing. It was about a baker down around the corner. But they took it and elevated it, and they used it in several other films, their live shows, their television shows. They performed it for presidents. They performed it for dignitaries. And the rumor or the folklore about it was they never said it the same way twice.
Wow. It's funny because as you try to emulate it, I've never done it the same way either. I've always thought
That's
something
because you
different.
barely remember it.
Hey. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But that's the cool thing about it. So obviously, I have a touch with greatness because they obviously didn't remember it either. Okay,
Oh,
I tried.
and folks out there, if you've never seen this, I'm sure you've heard of it. Who's on first? What's on second?
I don't know who's on
You know,
third.
right. I don't know who's on third. You know, third base. It is worth seeing. There's several versions out, easily accessible on YouTube, and it's worth it. It's hilarious. If you've never seen it, it's super hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who know exactly what I'm talking about, you know, good for you, because it's a gem. This is truly one of the moments where America just gave something to the world, and hopefully it will last forever.
Yeah, I've probably seen that movie a few times, but yeah, I enjoyed it even as a little kid watching it. Not a great fan of Abbott and Costello, certain movies,
Yeah.
but and Laurel and Hardy too, certain movies. But one of the skits that I really loved was the baseball skit. Who's on first? So yeah, that's a good point. I didn't know they were in the Baseball Hall of Fame though, Larry. That's good news. That's good information.
It's they're the only two non-baseball people who got into the Hall of Fame. It was fully inducted, the whole bit.
Wow, very cool. So any other movies out there that you want to introduce to our audience out there that you thought would be important for them to see and or just fun for them to watch?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a couple more. How about you, Steve?
We've been talking about the ones that I really wanted to bring up, and that was Moneyball and For the Love of the Game. And honestly, for two different reasons. One is in Moneyball, when you start Moneyball has this opening scene where it's the Athletics playing the Yankees in a game 5, or is it a game 5? I think it's a game 4. If the Yankees win, they continue on to the ALCS. If the Athletics win, they get to postpone it one more game. But it shows the dollar amount between the player budgets of the New York Yankees and the Oakland Athletics, and it's literally $60 million difference in payroll. And the Athletics up to this point have had good baseball teams, but have never been able to get over the hump. And they've always been viewed as a farm team for all the bigger teams, which is, you know, the guys go there, and when they come up, the Athletics can't pay them. So they go, Steinbrenner opens his golden checkbook and, you know, signs them to a dollar amount that they can't possibly refuse. The Florida Marlins during that period of time was doing the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, they won a World Series and then traded away every single one of their assets.
Doing the Steinbrenner method. That is exactly what they did.
Right.
They bought a team and then they sold the team. Piece by piece.
Yep. And the one thing is Steinbrenner actually signed people to, like, you know, 3 or 4 year deals at least, and kept them around till they quit working in baseball instances. But you have this, go ahead, Larry.
Please continue.
You have this at the start of the movie. You understand this is an underdog story.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, and Billy is kind of an underdog general manager. He was a Major League Baseball player that was highly scouted as one of the best players to be up and coming in baseball. And it was proof that the scouts don't get it right every time. And this movie also introduces you to the new way to look at baseball. Next evolution in baseball up to this point, and that was the sabermetrics, the small numbers, mathematics coming into baseball and gaining you an understanding of what actually, you know, can happen and can go on.
Now, and one of the things that's real important here is this is something that the team managers on the bench have known for 100 years. It's all about the percentages. It's all about the numbers, you know. And if the numbers aren't there, then you don't go that right, you know. And then look at the great baseball players who appear. Notice I use the word appear to go beyond the numbers. They're really not. If their numbers are just different, you know.
Which the managers may have known.
Well,
the managers may have known,
but the team owners and the people making the deals didn't.
Right. That's exactly what I was just going to say. The scouts and the owners, they only saw home runs and, you know, home runs, RBIs, and runs. They did, or strikeouts and innings pitched and wins. They didn't see, you know, this is a fluke. This is a one-year thing. This is the ballpark. If you pitch for the San Diego Padres, yes, you don't have a great team around you, so to speak, in baseball terms, but you have a baseball park that is tailor-made for you to succeed. It is hard to hit a home run out of that park. But if you play at Coors Field in Colorado for the Rockies, if you're a pitcher there, you're going to give up runs because there's no air up there. The ball just hangs. And, you know, guys hit with power and it leaves.
And a couple nights ago, I was watching Cubs at Rockies, and they were talking about how the Rockies tend to score a lot of runs, a lot of home runs, specifically a lot of long balls near the end of the game. Well, I did research on this, and I found something interesting. Is that as the air cools down, it gets thinner. The air gets thinner, and the balls will travel farther. So as the sun goes down, that's when the home runs start to happen near the end of the game. It's kind of cool, you know. It's very interesting. There's I love watching baseball documentaries. There's a couple I want to mention. Watched one a few days ago, and it's called Fastball, and it's about the evolution of the fastball since they started to call that pitch a fastball as opposed to a curve or a sinker or a slider or a cutter. And this movie is so cool because, first of all, it dispels the myth of the rising fastball. You know, and yet to a hitter, to the man at the plate, it does appear like the ball is rising. It really isn't. It talks about the difference between a 92 mile an hour fastball and a 98 mile an hour fastball. A 92 mile an hour fastball, you can still see the stitches on the ball. A 98 mile an hour fastball, you might see the ball 2 or 3 times on its way to you hitting it or missing it. Your brain is programmed to understand the trajectory, and so your brain goes there to watch the ball past that moment. Then your brain goes here, and it's really, you know, down to the microseconds. It's an amazing documentary. And if you love baseball, if you love to understand more about how pitches are done, this is a really good film. They think a group of people did another, and again, it's talking about, you know, this ever elusive pitch called the knuckleball and how it's developed and all that. There's one other baseball documentary that I have to tell you about, and I believe a year or so ago, Greg, I brought it up maybe 2 years ago, and it's called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. And this is about the famous actor Kirk Douglas. What am I talking about? Kurt Russell. His dad, for like $500 or $600, bought a minor league baseball team, and they were the very last completely independent minor league baseball team. And this documentary is about their successes and failures and what happened to make this team so popular, to take it out of the dustbin, because it's like the minor league on the West Coast was like they were getting ready to get rid of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought it back to life and the Seattle area, it was a Seattle team, I forgot, but gave them their home team back. And the rest of the major league were so afraid of this team because they had their own set of rules. I'm not talking about own set of baseball rules, but everything around it. And it's almost as if Kurt Russell's father understood the concept that we discussed a moment ago in Moneyball.
Mm-hmm.
And they won game after game after game. And how did they do it? They did it by relying on those little numbers and stuff. It's a really, really good documentary. It's engaging. Kurt Russell is one of the narrators of it. It's worth seeing.
So give the title of the film again, Larry.
The Battered Bastards of Baseball.
Now, interestingly enough, going along the guise of what you're talking about, I have a film that was based off of real events and kind of a biopic. Not even, it's actually a biopic. And that's The Rookie with Dennis Quaid. And something you said made me think of that, in that here's a situation where this guy who tried he did make a stab at the major leagues, and because of injury wasn't able to complete that journey at the time. And so at some point he reevaluates and becomes a teacher, and he's living in West Texas. And he is also the baseball coach. So one of the things that was interesting is he had many surgeries on his arm. So, not the pitching arm that it once was when in his youth. So while his team is picking up inning practice, the catcher is sitting there, he's edging his coach to throw him some balls. He knew his coach had tried out for the major leagues and all that, and was a pretty good pitcher in his time. And so he thought, hey, just throw a few. Well, he comes to find out that miraculously this arm is much better, and he's able to get the ball across the plate pretty quickly. But what ensues is the team getting batting practice from someone who has a decent arm, much better than the caliber of high school players. And what ends up occurring is the team gets better and better, because now they can start hitting the opponent's fastballs, the opponent's, pitching whatever the type of pitch that they're getting, because of how their coaches, who is a pitcher and a decent pitcher, is starting to throw all these really fast balls. It helps them evolve, as Steve would say, but more of in an old-fashioned way, to bring this team to prominence and to a conference championship, after the team was, by any stretch of the imagination, horrible. So you can find those different moments, not just in the documentary, but in the biopic, which is just that next step up, more or less, and into some other films that you may watch. So our time is really dwindling, and we probably didn't focus on as many movies as we could have, but hopefully we mentioned some poignant things that may get you to take the opportunity to see some really good baseball-oriented films.
So Greg, let me ask you and Steve just one quick question near the end here. Is if there was one baseball movie that you'd have to recommend, what would that movie be?
Well, for me, you've already mentioned it was Pride of the Yankees.
Yeah.
Say that question again.
If there's that one baseball movie that you recommend to someone, you got to see this movie, what would that be, Steve?
Me personally, I would say For the Love of the Game. And the reason for that is it's not just a baseball movie. It is a life movie.
Yeah.
It
And
is
the,
about coming to terms with where you are at what point in your life and understanding what's important.
and I think that's the reason why I like Pride of the Yankees. Lou Gehrig is going through all that throughout this whole film.
And that's why I would choose The Natural. It's for the same reason. It's something more. And you know, and this kind of brings me around full circle again. You know, this is it's about this ideal that we have in this country and in our neighborhoods and our street. I was talking with a guy the other day he grew up in Brooklyn, and if you've ever met somebody who really grew up in Brooklyn, their concept of baseball is so much different than anywhere else in the world.
Well, before you continue, we lost your picture, Larry. Are you there?
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we lost your picture. There you go. Okay.
Hello, everybody. In Brooklyn, their concept of baseball is different than everywhere else. And you see, these kids grow up playing stickball in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the places around the country, they no longer do that. They still do that in Brooklyn. They play stickball. And about it's to them, playing stickball is like doing a pickup game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and it gets to the point where they live and they breathe this. And you know, here's the interesting thing is that this is the kind of a game that Lou Gehrig.
Oh yeah.
This is the kind of a game that they grew up with. This is the kind of game that the great heroes of baseball grew up with. And the movies that we chose, come out of that type of pure idea of what baseball ought to be. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, indeed. Well, a movie that we didn't get to talk about, but I think is worth watching, is a Clint Eastwood film that didn't get a lot of notoriety, but I think it's well worth the watch. And we've introduced it on the show before, so I wanted to reiterate it. And I think it's a good enough film that shows family, and it's in all its quirkiness. And that's Trouble with the Curve. I think it's a fun movie, but I also think it's a very poignant movie when it comes to relationships and estranged family members and the true understanding and knowledge of the game, when it's not just all the evolutionary things, as Steve might have put it earlier, but also the information about having experiences and understanding what you're searching for, and then finding that thing, that factor that brings it all home when people doubt you. It's a very good movie, I think. Any other movies out there that you think people should watch? Larry gave us the question if we wanted to tell people about a movie we thought was the best movie, baseball movie to watch. What would it be? What about other movies, secondary movies that also too people should pay attention to?
Well, if you're looking at like quirky baseball movies, I got to go with the major league movies, especially the first one. It's hilarious. It is sophomoric at best,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll tell you something. When Wild Thing comes out at the end of the movie, my God! I mean, you're cheering along with everybody else in the in the stadium. That's a wonderful little high point of the film, and the movie leads you right there. It's a fun movie.
How about you, Steve? Any other films out there you think would be viable?
In the League of Their Own.
Yeah.
I feel In the League of Their Own stands. I feel it stands as its own movie and on its own merit. It's based on a true story, and it is in my opinion a partially empowering movie for women, because they were the originators of where softball went. So, but these were girls that didn't play softball; they played baseball, and
Right.
they took the place of a lot of famous ball players in that period of time and became heroes and role models, women, during that period of time. And they went out and played a game that the country loved during World War II, when men had gone off to fight in this war. And
then
it's an amazing movie. Tom Hanks does an amazing job with it, and it's one where he doesn't really be part of the movie.
What did you say again? What he didn't what with the movie?
destroy a part of the movie.
Oh,
Yeah, Tom Hanks.
They weren't Tom Hanks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen any of our previous shows, Tom Hanks has been a major factor in a lot of the catastrophe in film. We love Tom Hanks, and he's a good actor, but if you've seen a lot of Tom Hanks films, you kind of, if someone says Tom Hanks is coming, beware.
I've got one more movie.
Sure.
And that's 42. The
that's
Jackie Robinson
funny.
story.
You took it right out of my mouth. I was talking to one of our good acquaintances at work today, Corey Turk, and I mentioned to him about the subject of our film, and he said, you know what? He was taken aback by 42. He said, you got to mention 42. If you get a chance to see it before you do the broadcast, you got to see this film. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to do that, but I've heard nothing but good things about this film. So I was thinking, prior to Stephen saying that, look at the numbers, 42 and 61. Those are good movies, 42 and 61. 61 being Mickey Mouse.
Right.
And 42, who's 42? Jackie Robinson. There you go.
That's right. I'm just waiting for them to make a movie about Ernie Banks.
As am I, brother. Larry and I are Chicagoans through and through, born and raised, and Ernie Banks was a big deal in our lives growing up, and sadly never getting that championship in his grasp, but making baseball in Chicago a fun thing, especially if you're a Cubs fan. Now, I was more of a Sox fan growing up on the South Side, but my dad used to always take us to Cub games, and seeing Ernie Banks is a wonderful thing. My dad actually got to meet Ernie Banks before they both passed away, so that was a cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Well, that's a really cool thing that your dad was able to meet Ernie Banks. That's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cut this show to bring it to an end. There we go. I knew I'd get it out some kind of way. But thank you for watching and listening, and to us talking about America's pastime, baseball and film, how it has affected us, obviously, and we hope that it'll affect you too. Give baseball a chance. If you're not watching it day to day at the stadium, or watching it on television day to day, if there's a rain out, why don't you take that opportunity to watch one of these baseball films, so you'll still get baseball, just in a different way.
And most of the films that we discussed tonight are available on multiple different services, so you can find it out there. So
even the library has DVDs on many of these films, and as Larry alluded to, different platforms like streaming. I mean, you can find them, and I think it's well worth your effort.
I remember there are so many different baseball movies out there that we could begin to mention them all. If you find one you like, let us know. Let us know. We'll watch it and we'll let you know what we felt about it, because there's a lot out there.
Indeed, and you can get in touch with us in many different ways. On our YouTube channel, you can leave a comment there. You can leave a comment on A Real Point of View on Facebook, and also Real Movie Guy on Twitter. And just let us know what you think. Give us some information to explore on our own, as Larry alluded to, and we'll come back and at some point let you know what we think too. And you know, get another show with a different theme and subject matter. Doesn't matter, baseball, anything. Just let us know. We appreciate you watching. Thanks again for listening and watching us here on A Real Point of View. As I alluded to, check out our channel on YouTube, and more importantly, find a film, watch it, and enjoy it. Good night, everybody.
Peace.
Peace. Steve?
Bye.
Good night, everybody.